Hello there. It is currently October 3rd, 2024. Now, we had a tech preview last night. We've had a couple by now. It went okay for the first 5 minutes. When they tiered up to the 1,000 players, it actually worked relatively well for like the first 5 minutes until eventually the servers for arcade, and eventually it just kept happening, so they tiered it down to, I think, 500 players, and then it was relatively stable. Not so much this morning. Those servers have been up for about 12 hours, and a lot of interaction delays. It's deteriorated quite a bit, but this isn't a criticism on that kind of stuff. I'm sure they're working on it. They will fix those issues. It'll get better and better, even higher player counts. The point of this video is, even if like the baseline's 1,000 players, which I think they're going to try and get a lot more than that, I don't think they have the infrastructure to deal with us 1,000 players servers. And what I mean by that, when I say infrastructure, I don't mean like software, tech, server. I mean like in-world infrastructure. If we cast our minds back 3 or 4 years ago, I think it was. I'm not sure it was the very first Xenothreat. I think it might be the second Xenothreat, because I don't think they actually had medical facilities at stations for the first one. I'm not sure. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But when we did have medical facilities and I did run Xenothreat, everyone in the system would pile into Micah 1. They would try to go into sit spawn. They'd have to go outside to the pad because there was not enough hangars available, because we didn't have instancing hangars. Set their spawn, go back to ship, shoot off to Jericho, and then we die. So you'd have large quantities of player in one area and a large quantity of players all dying round about the same time, and we hit a problem. There wasn't enough medical beds, so people would get stuck on black screens. They just wouldn't spawn. You'd have to ult F4. It caused so many problems. Eventually CIG added, I think they doubled the amount of beds at station medical facilities, and they added the tech that allows people to queue for a bed. So that kind of fixed that issue. But I think that was kind of the first instance where we really realized that the game might not be ready for large player quantities in a confined space in the verse. And I think this became obvious in the last couple of tech previews we've had between last night and the last couple of weeks. We had a couple more, and it came rather obvious because the one we had last night, when they spooled up the 100 player server, the first thing I went to do is set my spawn at the station, because of the experience I had on the one 2 weeks ago, where me and everyone else was spawning at the Habs. And the problem is, there's only a fixed amount of Habs, so you'd have multiple people spawning in the same beds. And because of that, you'd get stuck in geometry, so you'd have loads of people stuck in the beds where they can't get out the beds. And you could hear everyone in voice. It was kind of cool in a way, because everyone's speaking on voice, and you could hear everyone else saying, yeah, I'm stuck. Eventually, I got out of it, I backspaced, went to the hospital. That was a whole load of other issues getting out of the hospital. The delays on the elevator, and just, it did not go well. We shall say that. And then eventually I had the same thing. I think they brought the server down. I joined another server. I got stuck in a hab. I backspaced, and I got stuck in a queue for the medical beds, but the queue never went down. And eventually I had to just not use my main account. My main account kind of got bricked, and I eventually had to use my alt account just to get into the verse. It didn't go well. And I think that's really what triggered me thinking, I'm not sure we can actually deal with 1,000 player server or higher. Now CIG does have a saving grace with their hangar instancing tech that they've developed. At first, my first thought was like, I guess you could just instance the apartments, but that's not really going to work, because when you do request to leave your hangar, so they could literally just instance the whole floor, because you have that gateway of the elevator similar to the hangars. So that would kind of fix lots of people all spawning in the same habs. You can just instance the floor. It doesn't fix other problems, like all the people trying to put... I mean, at most, I think I only really saw like 20 people at a time, because you got everyone split across the verse, setting their home at different planets. They're not all coming in at the exact same time. They're pretty much all coming in roughly the same time, but I'm only really seeing like maybe 20-ish people all trying to ram into the same elevator. They're all trying to get into the same tram. You have bottlenecks there. Eventually that wouldn't be such an issue, because as the servers stay up for longer, people spread out, they set their spawns at different stations and all that stuff. So it's really just a case of right at the beginning that's a bit of a problem. But I mean, that's only like 20 people. Like, if you have servers with more than 1,000 people, you could quite possibly see lots of people all trying to get in and out of trams and elevators at the same time. I'm not sure how they fix that problem. Like, at city locations, there's only so many shops. Like, a lot of the shops only have maybe 1 or 2 terminals to buy stuff. If you have like 200 or 300 people all in New Babbage at the same time, just all going around to trade area to sell cargo, trying to buy food and water, guns, ship guns, all this stuff. Is there enough terminals for that? I guess you could technically, once you've entered the shop, the ship terminal, the terminal for that shop could be an app on your phone. So literally it just could be once you're in that shop area, you get access to the app on your phone, so you wouldn't really need terminals. I guess could be a workaround for that kind of stuff. But I just don't know if there is, without making cities significantly bigger, maybe having you have the commons districts in Microtech, maybe you could have other common districts and others, without making cities like hugely bigger for a lot more infrastructure. I'm not sure what we have now can actually sustain a large quantity of players in that area. And then you have the problem of actually leaving a city. There's only so many hangar doors. Yes, there's instancing, so getting to your hangar to spawn your ship is not so much of a problem. Although I think they still need to add more elevators at the top ASOP terminal. There's not really enough elevators to get to the HABs. If you have a large player at the spaceport, they might have to double the amount of elevator doors there or something, I don't know. But then you also have the actual hangar doors. There's not enough hangar doors for people to leave. So they're going to have to add a lot more hangar doors. I don't see any other way around that other than maybe adding more spaceports. Spaceport A, Spaceport B. That's still just adding more hangar doors. You're just adding it somewhere else, and then you have to also have a transit system to that location. But I don't know how they do that without just going to have to add more hangar doors basically. And then, like I said, I set my spawn to the station, and there's only 4 terminals here. You don't have persistent hangars at stations. If you landed a ship and left it in the hangar, you should be able to access that hangar going in the elevator, but sometimes it doesn't work. There's only 4 terminals here, and a lot of them were bricked because you have like 20 or 30 people all in here trying to access that terminal. You have desync, like I'm seeing terminals being used, there's nobody standing there. That's the same problem with the stations. There's not enough infrastructure, there's not enough shops. I guess I could say, like I said, you have the app on your Mobi-Glass that maybe could fix that. Then is there enough missions available for people in the verse? Like if we Hurston and Hurston and Microtech are probably the most mission locations in the verse, because ArcCorp has only really got moons that can have missions, and Crusader only has its moons, although there's a couple of missions actually on Crusader, although they're turned off. Those platforms have been deactivated because NPCs still spawning in walls, etc. But if we go over here to Microtech, right, I'm going to go on this website and I'll show you. Right, so we go for underground facilities. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 7 distribution centers. Doubled that to like 14. Now, distribution centers are, unlike bunkers, you can have multiple missions activated at a distribution center. You can have like 3 or 4 people there all doing separate missions, and it's technically only like 50% done. We don't have the underground facilities yet, so say we triple that. What else we got? We got caves, cave missions. There's also cave like points of interest, caves, crash wreck sites. Will spawn will spawn ship missions above them. So they get tied up with that. But so we have caves, we have derelict settlements, we have outposts, wreck sites, forward fobs. I don't think they have that many. I think they just have box missions. I think people said you can do some box missions at fobs. Drug farm, stash houses, we'll add them as well. Like how many is that? 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Distribution centers, you can add a couple more. So say that's 100 locations on Microtech. You can only have 100 missions active on Microtech at once. Then you have the moons, which have bunkers and all the stuff. So we'll be generous and say 200. Like there's 200 mission you can have 200 active missions per planet. Although Microtech and Lorville or Hurston have more locations than the other two, but we'll be generous to say 200. So that's 400 missions in Stanton. You'll have missions like you'll have salvage missions and a couple other missions to go to like stations and stuff. So say 500 for 1,000 players on one system, and they want more than 1,000. Is there enough missions in Stanton for people to play? They do have a resource that they haven't really been using, of which is space. Space is vast. There's nothing in it. You can literally, they don't have to be tied. Unlike these, they don't have to be tied to locations. You can literally just have spawn mission at random location. And just obviously you'd have to put some kind of restriction that it doesn't spawn in a planet. So like a random mission can only spawn 100 kilometers away from a planet or a moon. But because we technically have free space missions that they added, the Reclaimer missions, although they're broken and live, they don't work. You have the Colvalix hub mission. There's lots of space. There's lots of things they could just like randomly generate in space so that people can go and do a mission there. And once they leave that mission, that despawns. I don't know if we have the infrastructure or the mission locations in Stanton to deal with 1,000 players. I mean, like also Prison can't deal with 20 players at the same time, kind of. There's not enough content in there and not enough habs. I am working on a video about Prison and server meshing. So if you want to see that, hit the sub button. Yeah, so Prison's not ready neither. But anyway, that's kind of the video. I was just thinking during these server tests that is Stanton ready for 1,000 players or more? I mean, Pyro's even worse. It has even less spawn locations. It only has like 5 or 6 stations. I don't know the exact count, but it has a lot less locations than say Stanton. But anyway, guys, that was it. I was just thinking out loud kind of video. If you liked it, thumbs up, thumbs down, leave a comment on like other issues you might think of that we might not be ready for. Because I'm pretty sure they want to have more than 1,000 players, and I'm not sure we can even have 1,000 players in this system with the current level of content and the current level of infrastructure, transit systems, shops, etc. Anyway, that's the video. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next one. Bye bye.